impressive performance. Let's go and check in with Raven and Soddle over at the side desk. How's it going, guys?
It's going good. Going good. Been enjoying the matches. They've been quite slow, steady ones, as we imagine to be. Seeing
Slow
the
and steady.
Wins the race. There you go. But yeah, we've been seeing some cool matchups. I believe we're going to be going into Dogpwn versus Dog coming up soon. I think we're going to start into game number 2. And I believe, looking at the notes, that Dogpwn's Rogue has been banned out and Dog's Shaman has been banned out. And so far, Dogpwn took a win versus Dog on a mage-on-mage game going on. So we're going to go straight into game number 2 and check out what's going on. It looks to be a Priest from Dog versus the Druid from Dogpwn. What's going on in this matchup, Sal?
Yeah, I mean, this is not quite the same as it used to be. Of course, we see Dog's a couple of tech cards he has in this deck. The Galaka Crawlers are going to be a big whiff in the matchup. But previously, Dragon Priest, which is the archetype the Dog is playing, used to be able to get out a ton of early tempo against Jade Druid and just develop a ton more stats than Jade Druid from kind of turns 1 until 6, at which point Jade Druid would start catching up and closing the gap. So Dragon Priest would have to be aggressive through those turns, push damage, and try and end the game quickly. Now, because a lot of those early game dragons and big synergy plays have gone from the dragon package, Dragon Priest is now a much more late game deck, which makes it a lot harder for Dog to be able to get any initiative going. But after saying that the Galaka Crawler is a pretty big whiff, it does at least enable him to land his Talon Priest on curve for value, which is interesting because Dog, to make room for some of these tech cards in his Dragon Priest, has actually cut down to 1 Cabal Talon Priest, which is not something I have seen a great deal of.
And also, as well, 1 Twilight Drake in the list as well. So definitely making some cuts for these cards. And as you mentioned, Galaka Crawler might not be the best card to just play out against versus Jade Druid, but it's something, right? You know, with the rest of the hand looking how it does, no clerics, no elementals either. There's actually no elementals in the list anyway. But yeah, just having stuff to play early on to then start rocking these buffs, even powered shields, for example, are going to be good just to continue that pressure onto the Druid and make it awkward for the trades to happen. Dog, though, only needs 1 Twilight Drake if he's going to draw it on curve every game. Only a 4/7, but coining out the Power Word Shield is going to help him cycle a little bit more, because the rest of his hand's looking a little bit dry outside of this Twilight Drake.
Yeah, Dog is playing extremely fast here, very fast player. Anyone that's familiar with watching his stream will know that. He makes snap plays. He's a kind of instinctual player, especially when he's feeling in his comfort zone. And his APM on things like choose ones, for example. I have never seen someone that can pick a Druid choose one as fast as Dog can.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I often just have to wait to find out which one he picked when it happens. Same with Discover. A lot of the time it's like, Discover Dog's choice. That's all he needs to do there. Now Jade Spirit coming down means that it's Dogpwn's going to be able to start just stacking up these Jades and keep applying the pressure here, because we can see that outside of this Priest of the Feast, Dog doesn't really have many options in terms of either A, plowing down the board or going aggressive, or B, realistically trading with a wide board in itself. There is the Dragonfire Potion, but that's one I feel you need to hold on to a little bit longer in this matchup.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
you hit the sweet point, right?
Right. Timing Dragonfire is all about hitting that sweet spot, because it can very, very quickly become a dead card. You can sometimes get some use out of it later on. If, say, Jade Spirits haven't been used, then you can combine it with Potion of Madness and start clearing out 6, 6, 7, 7 Jades with it using Potion. But that's a very specific scenario, so most of the time you want to be timing that Dragonfire to perfection to be clearing a board where a 5/5 Jade is the biggest target. And most importantly, as I've kept saying about this matchup, you want to be doing it while you have minions in play, so you are pushing tempo, pushing damage at the same time.
Yeah, there's almost no point if you can clear a board, but then the board's empty and you pass the initiative over to the Druid. You almost may as well not bother clearing it in the first place.
Right.
This Aya must be very frustrating for Dog here as well, because this 1 health outside of either a Potion of Madness small minion or the actual 1 Pyro plus a spell in the list, it's going to be just a pain to deal with. There is a Shadow Word Death, I think. Yeah, there is. There's a Shadow of Death in the list, but you don't want to do that on a 5/1, right? Especially Aya that replaces itself. Not when you could potentially need to just take out a singular 8/8 Jade or something on the board.
Yeah, chose to trade with the 3-3 that turn did Dog. There was nothing really in terms of onboard trades that killing the 3-3 really changed too much, but this is a big taunt potential turn for Dokpone. Both Primordial Drake and Jade Behemoth, which haven't been played, could both be played here. So we didn't really want that 3-3 just running wild, hidden behind a taunt and not being able to deal with it. So clearing it out made a lot of sense, although Dog really should be looking for opportunities to really turn up the aggression, because we've mentioned several times during this broadcast already in the Dragon Priest games that Dragon Priest is basically a pure value deck these days. It's very hard to push tempo like you used to be able to with Dragon Priest, and if that's the case, then you're not really going to have a great deal of time to outvalue a Jade Druid. So he does need to be looking for spots to try and push some aggression in this matchup.
Yeah, and Dokpone probably knows this matchup in and out, as Jade Druid is actually his comfort pick, his favorite deck to actually play with, and we can actually hear more from Dokpone about that.
I think Jade Druid for now looks really good in this meta. They got very good tools to make them better against aggro decks, and there's also less aggro decks. So I firmly believe that Druid will be one of the best in the prelims. I think everybody's gonna run it.
Yeah, not wrong, to be honest, about the popularity of Druid just at the moment in the game across tournaments and on ladder as well. It's going to be interesting to see how he approaches this. Gadget Zan and the Jade Idol is going to help cycle, but that singular draw from Gadget Zan plus the draw from this turn are going to, I feel, make or break this matchup, to be honest.
Yeah, and I said it's going to be difficult for Dog to potentially outvalue a Jade Druid, but Dokpone has been so light on card draw this game. I believe he used a Wrath for pure removal instead of cycling it. He hasn't hit a Nourish just yet, and now he's just only hitting his first Auctioneer turn right now. So this factor right here means that Dog is actually being able to outvalue Dokpone just in terms of cards in hand. They're not going to get through their deck and outvalue the Jade Druid, but he might be able to exhaust him of resources. So seeing this Auctioneer now will be a big blow to Dog's psyche, because he would have been counting on the opportunity to just run Dokpone out stuff.
Yeah, and you might think, why did Dokpone take this long over this turn, right? It's just Jade Idol or Jade Idol, but no, the shuffle first, which makes your next draw from the second Jade Idol more likely to draw another Idol, or there's just create first, see what you draw to open up more plays on the board this turn. And he did go for the shuffle first, so, you know, not too much of a surprise. I would tend to agree with that, just because if you can just play even one more Jade, it's one more minion on board that's getting quite big outside of Dragonfire range, and also one more cycle that you can just gain that turn.
Yeah, I think having drawn the second Jade Idol on the turn, that it was a bit of a no-brainer, the play, because the downside of the shuffle play to increase your chances of good Auctioneer draws is that you just keep falling behind on board presence right now. You're a long way behind on this board right now. But since he drew the second Jade Idol, he was always going to be able to at least generate that 3-3. Dog nails the Un'Goro pack off his Shadow Visions, and the value train is going to keep rolling here. That was not an oppressive Auctioneer turn from Dokpone, so he is down to just very few resources in hand right now.
Explore Un'Goro, let's go.
Dog can be a bit of a memer every now and again, Raven.
Well, there you go. I think, you know, although Dog is...
It's not happening.
Well, I know. I'm not going to try and explain it. Okay. I just mean Dog's an exceptionally great player, but he does love to play these strange decks, these strange styles. And although we're more than likely not going to see Explore Un'Goro at this point, it is something that I feel Dog could handle pretty well if required.
And sometimes for Dog, out of the depths of a meme comes an explosive deck. He was playing Quest Rogue on stream for a joke, essentially, when he started playing it. The expansion came out, everyone thought the Rogue Quest was terrible. Dog tried it out, being a big Rogue fan. Bam, rank 1 legend.
Oh, deck's good.
Thanks, Dog.
Yep, so everyone who has, you know, been defeated by Quest Rogue many times on the ladder, that guy at the bottom's the one to blame, more than likely. Now Dokpone with the Blossoms, just generating a 6-6, being able to trade away the board, but to be honest, I would just be terrified if I was him. All the options in the world for Dog, you've seen the pack open up as well, so truly, like, anything out of Un'Goro can come out of this hand, and all he has to battle with it is a Feral Rage. Doc will be wanting quite a lot to draw that Nourish next turn, I feel.
What is it with animals and inventing really frustrating Hearthstone decks? Dog made Quest Rogue, Green Sheep made Face Hunter.
Yeah.
That's all I've got. I tried really hard to think of the third one.
Has played
Made
well.
Things. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, animal names are cool, right?
Sure.
Yes.
Thanks, Raven.
Sideways compliment. I love it. Okay, so a lot of options for Dog here. It's a Hot Spring Guardian. Clutch Mother, not really going to be too useful. Living Mana could kind of be interesting, to be honest, because Druid doesn't really have a way to deal with it outside of a Drake.
Yeah, Living Mana is a little bit weird. I'm kind of looking at it and seeing if he can potentially make a push, but having the Primordial Drake in his hand, I think this is sensible just to get this out on the board first. It's not going to have an impact in terms of clearing the Jade Druid's board at this point because the Jades are so huge. So he might as well just get it out on the board as a beat stick, and then that gives him the potential to Living Mana behind that without potential downside. Obviously, he wouldn't be jamming the Primordial Drake after his Living Mana anyway because of how Living Mana works, but still, you want it. The point I'm getting at is that he'll want to spend the mana that he has now on getting all of these decent cards out of his hand, because once he plays Living Mana, he's going to be so restricted that it then makes life difficult to continue the pressure after that point.
Yeah, definitely a great ace up the sleeve to a certain extent, you know, to just get that out of a pack and have a huge board refill. But double Feral Rage for Dogpwn is going to be able to clear up this Drake, protect the Jade as well. But again, that is just it for him. Whatever he draws next turn is probably just going to be all he's got for the game at this point. Dog can just slam another Drake if he really wants to. Can't do the extra 1 damage, which is going to be frustrating. Maybe. Just maybe. Nah, we're not going to see Explore and Go.
Yeah, I mean, he can play the Primordial Drake and just kind of stick a 2/2 behind that to do the extra damage. He is just going to go ahead and jam the Living Mana here just for the 7 2/2s. Does go into a 4-mana play on the following turn, the way this has worked out, so he can still at least develop a couple of 2-drops, a Priest of the Feast, whatever he needs to do. That Jade Idol pickup, though, is a 7/7 drawn this turn, but Dogpwn is so far behind in this situation, he's looking at Nourish into 2 Jade Idols. That's the kind of play he's wanting to hit right now.
Yeah, he just wants to hold some cards. But he's just going to go face. There's not much worth trading here at all for Dogpwn, and I think he's just got to rely on these Jades and whatever he draws to just get him there. If this board is cleared one more time, I would say, this is going to be pretty much lights out for Dogpwn here.
So it takes 5 of his 2/2s to remove this board. So that doesn't feel too pleasant, especially because of the big hit of not being able to develop behind it. This is the downside of Living Mana. When you put it in any other deck outside of Aggro Druid, it does feel a lot weaker because Aggro Druid only needs 1 mana to jam Mark of the Lotus onto their mana treants, and then suddenly the board state becomes ridiculous. You don't need mana to play with after that when you've just got a full board of 3/3s. In just a regular Hearthstone deck, you can see that it actually dramatically impacts your tempo here. Like, Dog is going to have to trade the majority of his board if he wants to kill this 7/7. That's not a given at all. He can just choose to push face here. And he's just going to have a slow turn behind that.
Yeah, well, I wondered as well, you know, Dog's going for the 2/2 drops just to fill the board again. But I wondered how good just like Hot Spring would be. You benefit from the heal. You've seen double Feral Rage come out. Is there realistically a way that Dogpwn can clear it and still push for the additional 7 with the Jade on 1 card? Probably not.
It's true, and by playing a 3/2 here, he kind of incentivizes Dogpwn to take the most damage off the board. If Dogpwn does trade his 7/7 into a 3/2, suddenly Dog's trades are more efficient. He now gets to kill the remainder of the 7/7 with only 2 of his treants instead of the 3 that he'd have to use before. So it might be that Dogpwn is incentivized here to just take a value trade in a weird way, a trade that kind of plays around the breakpoints of the board. But Dogpwn is just running out of time because this Living Mana board from Dog is just about getting there at this point.
Yeah, it's 1 damage off lethal, I think now. It's just going to be 15 on the board, so... Yeah, I mean, it still feels terrible to put a 7/7 into, you know, a minion so small when you do actually need a way to end the game, when you don't have the resources in your hand to continue either. So maybe he just goes for it and hopes there's not the 1 damage.
Yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, my favorite play in this position is just to hit face and just make your opponent have 1 damage. The scary part of that is that you know they have the Un'Goro pack. I think without the Un'Goro pack in hand, it's almost a no-brainer to just kind of put the pressure back on. My second favorite play is to kill the 3/2. Is to kill a 2/2 because of the reasons I described. Kill the Clutch Mother because of the breakpoints, the way that we make trading into his 7/7. But I love this face attack. This is brave, and it could work out big here for Dogpwn because now Dog, after trying to make an aggressive push on the previous turn, now has to completely flip back on his head and respect the fact that Dogpwn himself has set up lethal.
I mean, if he went Explore and Go, maybe Dog would have had that 1 damage.
Raven, I hate you so much sometimes.
I know. But you also love me the rest of the time, so
That is also true.
there you go. But yeah, Dog just has to trade. He doesn't have the 1 damage available. And also, he can't play any other minions onto the board either, so trades have to happen here. He is way too close to dying. Even if he had to trade, you know, 1 minion in to get the hot spring down, for example, just to put up a wall, that was always happening. And if you trade in 1, you may as well trade a few more. It doesn't really change the clock too much here.
Back to the face plan for Dog. Just paid the due respect to the fact that Lethal was being threatened. There's the Nourish for Dokpone, though. How much is he going to be able to develop with his 5 remaining mana? Jade Blossom is a huge pickup. Wrath as well, not exactly ideal, but can take some of this damage off the board, so he can clear the 2/4 and a 2/2, and then a following 2/2 with the Wrath. That will only leave 7 damage on the board yet again.
It's 1 damage. Haunting Dog at this point. And Dokpone just has to go for it here. I don't think there's anything in the deck that Wrath Draw would get to help. Double Fire Rage, for example, is gone. Maybe there's the Scales that would help push him further out of range. But again, at risk of just losing next turn, I do not think it is worth it.
Yeah, he's just considering, he's trying to find a world where maybe he can use that Auctioneer as an engine next turn, but he's just forced to react to this board state. He needs to dump his spells just to kind of stay alive in this position. So he might just end up with a stranded Auctioneer in his hand, but it just has to ask the same question as he asked on the previous turn, which is, hey, I'm representing Lethal on the board right now yet again, and now, Dog, you didn't have 1 damage last time. If you don't have it again now, you're going to have to make a defensive play and trade yet again.
Yeah, and the bigger these Jades get, the harder these continued trades are going to be for Dog. Another Dragonfire Potion. So are we just going to see a just trade everything in here? And just Dragonfire this out?
What does he get to develop behind that, though? Not a great deal, right?
Nether Spite, dude.
Yeah, Nether Spite, and then pick up a dragon that you can't play. Just have a 1/3 on board against your opponent's 1 card in hand and 1 draw, which could be 10/10s and 11/11s.
You do have an additional Dragonfire worst case, though. So if you're...
Against 10/10s and 11/11s?
No, yeah, I didn't mean that. Against almost anything else.
Okay. Which is what in a Jade Druid? That's all their minions.
All their minions are 10/10s.
They are eventually.
I mean, I can see
Oh,
it,
Operative, Nether Spite for Operative, looking
Swipe.
for damage. That is a swipe, but he's 1 mana off.
And then if he trades, he loses the damage.
He was looking for the Earthen Scales, but he wouldn't get the mana back immediately anyway if he traded. Right? He can't get the additional mana.
Yeah, I mean, just like the setup for next turn.
Sure,
as well.
sure.
Like, by trading, he doesn't even completely set up Lethal for next turn, even with the swipe, depending on what comes out from Dokpone here.
That's great recognition from Dog, honestly. I looked at leading with the Nether Spite into the Draconid Operative, but, you know, I immediately said, okay, well, swipe doesn't work. Both Feral Rages are gone, but of course he could have hit Earthen Scales there for Lethal. That's what he went fishing for.
Okay.
Didn't hit it, but got the swipe to potentially end the game on the follow-up. But now this is a big, big turn coming out from Dokpone with the Auctioneer Innovate.
Yep, and he has to just, I think he just has to use the swipe. This turn, I think just drawing the single card is not going to be enough. He's going to swipe face.
Earthen Scales, that could just end the game now. That is so much extra stability. Dog has desperately fished for a way to set up a win condition, and if the Earthen Scales didn't end the game, Raven, the Jade Idol has.
Yeah, you know, Dokpone cheating out here. 2 10/10 Jades. How? And it's called Earthen Scales. But that is just going to be too much to handle here. Now with 18 health, Galaka Crawler. There needs to be a crab that kills a Jade. That's next expansion, people.
And then finally, once everyone gets really annoyed with all the crabs, a crab that eats crabs.
Yeah. Oh my god.
We've heard it all before, Raven.
Crabception.
Board is clear. Swipe, Dragonfire Potion, and the trade has
Doc's
kept
got
him
lethal.
alive.
It's fine.
Dokpone has Yogg and a Dream in hand
wow.
right now.
Never mind.
I think we probably play the 11/11 instead. That seems a bit more solid.
Yeah, getting those double Jade Idols right when Dokpone got them and being able to just freely shuffle them in. Because he could have very easily been in a position where he only drew one of them and he needed the pressure, right? And then if he drew the second one later and thought, well, I still need the pressure, I need to play that that extra Jade as a minion, then this could have just potentially not happened. Glacial Shard. And the Stubborn Gastropod. Oh my god, the nemesis of all big minions ever. We actually talked about this earlier, and you just got to think, Stubborn Gastropod could, like, face down a Deathwing. How weird would that look?
It would look slightly unusual. I
love
agree.
it. I mean, to be fair, it's going to be facing down a 11/11 Jade at this point. That's also pretty impressive.
Glacial Shard's such a huge pickup, though, because
Glyph.
otherwise he was just going to have to throw his Primordial Drake into it. Now he's even got a Meteor to back this up on a following turn when he needs to deal with it. Has Dog turned the corner with the Ungoro pack? I mean, obviously, we're staring at the Yogg in hand from Dokpone, which is lethal at any given point when he wants to play it. But Dog, from his perspective, does he feel like he might find a way here?
Maybe. So Gachapod's going to come down, just get it down now. Heal is going to be prioritized over everything else. You don't want to die to a second swipe.
This is a great setup, though, because now from Dog's perspective, Meteor can kill the 11-11 Jade. If a 12-12 Jade hits alongside it, then he's got the Gastropod in play to be able to trade it out. Does Dokpone really want to continue developing into this Gastropod, or does he just jam Yogg and hope?
Doc's just forced to Yogg a Gastropod. It even rhymes. J Behemoth is going to be the option here, so
It kind of rhymes.
Yogg, Gastropod.
Well, one's a G and one's a D. G and D don't necessarily. Whatever.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay, well, Gastropod can clear off any of these big guys. As you said, this is just a great setup to clear the board here.
Yeah. Great recognition of the spot from Dog, but from Dokpone's position, you have to sympathise because he had the entire Ungoro expansion to consider playing around in that
kinda
position.
tough.
Really, really hard to do.
And people complain about Glyph.
Right.
It's not a whole expansion.
Right.
Glyph being one of the cards in Dog's hand, of course.
Gonna go for it. Shadow of Deaths and Mind Controls are possibilities here. Does pick up the Mind Control. That can now be a big swing for him on a following turn. So he found an answer to the 12-12 Jade. He's found an answer to the 11-11 Jade. He now has an answer to the 13-13 in hand as well. He is somehow just sticking in there against Jade Druid.
Also, as well, the more just of these just little heals that he keeps placing on himself makes Yogg less and less likely to actually hit lethal, right?
I really wonder about Yogg on the previous turn. That just felt right to me. 3 minions.
Because you have the backup of the Behemoth
Yeah,
after.
3 minions in play on the follow-up. You had like weird outs where you silenced your own frozen 11-11, like to get lethal, not just like straight up damage to face. It can draw you cards and really push you through. Like, I don't know, Dokpone just it feels like his turns are just petering out here because he doesn't want to play the Yogg-Saron. Maybe fatigue is an issue for him. I don't know how low down in his deck he is at this point.
But if you're
I
not
feel like
gonna
if he
play
just
it now,
draws the entirety of his deck, he's got enough health to be able to use the rest of his deck to build a board presence that Dog can't beat.
I mean, Dog's not exactly going to burn him down, right?
Right.
And the problem here is if you're not playing Yogg now on an empty board when you've got pretty much no cards in hand, when are you even playing it in the game? Are you just resigned to just not bothering?
That's why I was saying the previous turn, right? Because there were 3 minions on the opposing side, which means removal spells were more likely to dodge Yogg and keep it going. Playing it there on an empty board didn't feel great to me, but it just goes to show that maybe Dokpone missed his window to jam the Yogg on the previous turn.
Yeah, was that Primordial Drake?
It looks like it. This thing's going to get mind controlled so hard.
Also, we can see the mind control, right? So we have the caster vision, but I just feel like these are still safe turns to just drop Yogg to a large extent. The Primordial Drake's probably the minion that's probably closest to not getting dealt with this turn. But what is Doc going to draw into that's going to build on that? Obviously, you know, Jade.
I don't know how many Jade Idols he has left. Like
I think he's got one.
He drew 2 at the same time, then he shuffled 3 and played the second. How many Jade Idols has he drawn since then? I think it's 2.
He's played 2, yeah.
I think it's 2, so there's one more left.
I think there's one left, I think.
All right.
But, wow. No mind control yet.
All right, well, now we will find out whether Dokpone is concerned about fatigue or not. And it seems like the answer might be yes, because with no other possible option, he just goes ahead and jams the Yogg, and this now could be everything for Dokpone.
Colin, just need a few more of those.
Nope. Multi-shot does not work with only one target on the opposing board. Wind Fury hits the Wisp. That is a big whiff. Yogg keeps on trucking
means
for
he can
now,
trade.
though.
Oh.
Rip Nourish. Oh, and that's a bad Yogg.
That's a bad one. There goes Nourish. Maybe Dokpone not too bothered, depending on the size of his deck. But the problem is, again, the way this Yogg has created the outcome of just handing over the initiative to Dog again, and suddenly, you know, Mana Bind can just get thrown down. Any spell that Druid's going to play is only going to benefit you, especially because there's no like lethal out at this much health, right? And also, Dokpone just has to consider that the cards he's even playing at this point. What is this secret?
And go ahead and shapeshift He's just going to go and shapeshift. He's scared of the potential of Mirror Entity or something like that coming out for the Primordial Drake.
Huh. What is Dokpone's plan here?
It's a good question.
Well, I feel like if it's Entity, then there's one card you need in the deck, right? It's just Jade Idol.
Right.
But then if it's Counterspell, I suppose you can play the Drake behind it. But how long can you wait?
I mean, he didn't have 10 mana available on that turn because he was overloaded for 1 by the Lightning Bolt, so he might just be considering he wants to hero power this Ooze and play the Drake in the same turn. That way the stats of the Ooze can't be used to deal with the Primordial Drake, because of course from Dokpone's perspective, his Primordial Drake is a giant 4/8 that Priest might have a bit of an issue dealing with, and we miscounted.
Yeah, all
of the Jade Idol's gone, so Dokpone is just in a huge mess now. That is just going to be game for Dog. This is not going to be enough for Dokpone to get through.
The minion, he doesn't really want to Earthen Scales either, because sitting at 4 attack, this one's looking pretty sweet here for Dokpone, but it's just not going to be enough. Mind Control is going to end this. And this is looking rough now as Dog is able to even this one up. He's just gonna, I love it. I knew it was going to get played. Good job, Doug. 1-0 to Raven.
Beautiful. And honestly, shout out to Dog, because from a very, very unfavorable position, I think Dog has resoundingly outplayed his opponent in that spot. I think he was a long way behind in the position of the game, but he navigated some incredible positions with the Gastropod Meteor set up in the mid game, and maybe Dokpone has to just go back and look at that Yogg-Saron timing.
Yeah, and Dokpone had a lot to consider there, and there was something that was pretty cool about that series and his effort in this tournament overall. He's actually wearing the same clothes he wore in the Bahamas, so we can check him out. Well, it looks like today. This is today right now as he's playing, or at least getting ready to go into the next game against Dog.
Okay.
So there's a recognizable attire, as this is him in the Bahamas.
That's a different t-shirt. Come on.
No, it's just cut off. You can see the it's close. Anyway, the hoodie is there, the hat is there. Dokpone definitely there for the look for Dokpone. But speaking of Bahamas, we can check out what Doc's career profile looks like after his huge breakout performance there as well. He pretty much did come out of nowhere in terms of in the playoffs and going all the way, performing very, very well indeed. And he's just, kind of still doing it to a certain extent in the playoffs. Still many more rounds to go. He could re-qualify again.
Yeah, I mean, we might even see some more breakout stars the way this playoff is going. A lot of the very top names have fallen to 0-2 or a 1-1 record early, which makes it very, very difficult to qualify out. So we might be seeing some of the, the new seasons Dokpones, for example, Dr. Jinkaninki, all of these players who made a name for themselves in winter. There are some new players coming out in North America who are looking to make that happen.
Yeah, and we can check out what exactly Dokpone's been up to post-Bahamas.
Me beating the world champion, Pavel, that was a big thing.
Dokpone takes down the world champion, knocks him out of this tournament.
People talk to me more about Pavel than Bahamas in general. His shadow followed me all the way back to Montreal. When I got home, I was surprised the amount of people that followed me there.
This has been one of my favorite stories, was Dokpone's.
Everybody's sending me messages of like, congratulations. Most of them don't know anything about Hearthstone. My colleagues, they were so hyped about what happened in the Bahamas. They printed out funny pictures of me there that they took on the net, and they put it on all the walls in my office. It felt really good to be supported by all these nice people.
Dokpone, certainly it's been a fantastic run for him through the Americas playoffs to this point, and he'll be going to the World Championship.
Since I'm already qualified for the World Championship, I'm not gonna go to the spring prelims with the same goal, right? I'm just going there mostly to have fun and practice. These competitions are really, really important for me. I need to improve a lot more if I want to win the World Championships.
Great finding out more about Dokpone. A super cool guy we got to hang out with quite a lot, actually, at the Bahamas. And Very good recognition there from him, just saying there's still a lot I need to improve on. So I'm going to use it. I'm already qualified for the World Championships.
Right.
I'm going to use these tournaments to improve, to focus, and to try and get better at the game as we move on to game number 3 versus Dog.
Most importantly, I stand corrected. It was the same
There you go.
t-shirt. Yeah.
Never question me again, so.
My bad.
Not when we're talking about clothing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. I'll give you that one.
Thank you. Dog going in here for the Miracle Rogue as well. Not the Quest Rogue we were talking about, he popularized.
Yes.
But Dog, hey, before Quest Rogue was a thing, he was pretty good at Miracle Rogue. Definitely one of his signature decks.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But he's running a version here with still the Swashbucklers in the list, which is not a given these days. Some players are starting to cut the Swashbuckler from the list, kind of following in the footsteps of Quest Rogue in that regard. And Dog here choosing not to backstab the 1-3. Now, you might be looking at this and saying, Dog, you fool, what are you doing? This allows your opponent to buff their Murloc and start pushing.
Does
but
it?
now, in this position, you now tempo out the backstab SI, and look at how quickly Dog reacted to the situation. He said, you know what? If there is a 2-3 buffing this Murloc, that's actually a better position for me than anything else. Plus, I cover the potential of Coin War Leader doing the same thing, and I still have backstab SI to deal with that War Leader. Great play for the Dog.
Yeah, and also now, although not the flashiest and nicest of plays, there can even be just patches into Eviscerate. Probably Thanos.
Would you
now
say
instead.
that him having drawn this patches was pretty strong since he can use it to activate his Eviscerate, Raven? Is that a thing that you might say?
I wouldn't. I do remember, who was it that said that yesterday? I think it was TJ. I was actually talking a lot about how he likes drawing patches.
Interesting.
And he thinks it actually improves his win rate overall.
Wow, fascinating. Admirable as well, I think, is a big fan of drawing patches.
Yeah, he actually is one of the best in the world, in fact.
Indisputably the best at drawing the world.
Exactly. So this,
What did I even just say? That wasn't even a sentence.
I mean, that's all I hear all the time from you, Saul. Murloc Paladin, pretty much deemed the best all-round deck in the game.
Agreed.
How is it lining up versus Miracle Rogue? Because one, Miracle Rogue's just not as popular in general as Quest Rogue. But how does it actually go up against this list?
Well, Miracle Rogue, if it puts together kind of the early game plays, is one of the few decks that can really match tempo with the starts of the Murloc midrange Paladin. So in that regard, it can do very, very well because it can then follow up that tempo with continued tempo, whereas Murloc Paladin starts out as a very tempo-based deck and then transitions to a value-based deck later on with big pulls off Stonehill Defenders, Tyrion, Tarim, etc.
Even Finger to a certain extent.
Even Finger to an extent, yeah. Whereas, Rogue just continues to just pile tempo on tempo on tempo. Their mid to late game plays are just Vilespine Slayers, cheap Arcane Giants, Edwin Van Cleef. Auctioneer draws your deck to make sure you have enough fuel to keep pushing that kind of tempo. So it really does come down to who is in command of the matchup come around turn 5, turn 6 or so.
Mid-game.
Because at that point, if Paladin's ahead, then they can just, either push for lethal or slow down and grind the Rogue out of the game. If the Rogue's ahead, then they just have this incredible platform to build off of from there.
Yeah, I think Vilespine is actually one of the key cards in just grabbing that. Just insta-killing a minion is absolutely insane.
Right.
And even just the 3-4, not great to a 5-mana minion, of course. The stats are a little bit underpowered on that minion. But, combined with the effect, even the 3-4 is going to get some great trades when your opponent's playing small minions like these Murlocs.
And this is a really key turn for Dog because the backstab looks fantastic, especially to combo the Vilespine Slayer. He could use the patches to do the same thing, but crucially, and this is a big point in playing Miracle Rogue overall, it's about resource allocation. It's about, do I want to use my backstab to make a big Edwin? Do I want to use it to activate a combo effect like Vilespine Slayer? Or do I want to save it for my Gadgetzan Auctioneer? And all of these are valid options, valid lines that you can go down. And Dog here choosing just to use the backstab to answer the board state. And as I said, this matchup very much about who gets a grip of the board around turn 6. Dog maxes out on tempo on turn 6. And not only does this grip him the board, it also denies the big Spike Ridge Steed coming down from Doc Pone.
Yeah, additional effect as well. What's nice is this Vilespine, you might look at it at a glance and say, but it just dies to True Silver. Great, because I have Gadgetzan and a prep in hand.
Exactly.
Yeah, so if this True Silver swing comes in, then Dog's just going to be like sick. Depending on the next draw, of course. If it's a spell, then he's looking absolutely fantastic. The odds on him drawing a spell from the prep play anyway are reasonably high. So this Gadgetzan's just going to be clear to almost do whatever it wants here. And the swing happens, the Kodo happens. It's not as if Doc Pone shouldn't have swung in there to kill off the mini, as you said. It's fairly tempo-based, so you do want to grasp hold of that board. But the gadgets are now into Mimic Pod as well. Oh
This
my
hits
lord.
second prep, second backstab, something like this. We could just see Dog going off. That is not the Mimic Podded card, and neither is this because of the way this interaction works.
Hallucination's
The Mimic Pod will
great,
come
though.
next, but Hallucination is a fantastic pickup, and that is a huge threat engine in hand now for Dog.
Yeah, and even True Silver Champion now as an option. Silvermoon is okay. He's going to go for it. Okay, it's a spell that's going to help. You know, go with these Quest Adventures, for example. Maybe hallucinates into something else. If a minion sticks, then the buff's going to be great, and it is more value in terms of a minion generation as well. But I was just thinking of the True Silver just to help equip and just start, you know, grinding down some of the rest of the board that Dokpon is going to put forward.
Raven, all I care about is just getting this Vine Cleaver rolling. This is one of my favorite cards in the expansion. When I get asked this question, I say Living Mana because it's a powerful card in Standard, which is the core format. But I've also been playing a ton of Wild this season, and Vine Cleaver is absolutely bananas in that format.
It's pretty good. When you can play a Paladin deck that just generates almost unlimited 1/1s, and then you have cards that buff those.
Unusual to see it at this point in Standard, though. It was messed around with early on when I think Strife Pro was one of the first people to really start pushing out these kind of Paladin decks. Vine Cleaver was a card that he favored originally, but of course, the downside of the Vine Cleaver in this spot is that it puts those Silverhand recruits on the board for minimal getaway Kodo value, but Dog is still going to have a massive amount of trouble dealing with, first and foremost, what is 12 damage from Vine Cleaver, which is a massive hit against Rogue, and also just these 1/1s with no Fan of Knives in Dog's hand are going to be a huge, huge issue.
It's all right. It's got Light's Justice. You got
pick them
this.
off.
Yeah.
Pick them off one by one.
To be fair, these hallucinations have been very underwhelming here for Dog, I feel. Like, you know, these weapons don't quite cut it. Divine Favor, not great when you're the deck that actually wants to have a huge hand and has just played Gadget Zan as well. Silvermoon Paul's going to come down and now generate a 2-drop, ouch, and then create the 6/6, which he knows he's going to be traded into if Dokpon wants. Now there are targets for that Spyridge Steed, and I feel like for Dog, these giants needed to be 0 mana. Or at least closer than 4.
He's getting there, yeah, for sure. Dokpon's list, is he running any equalities, by the way? I don't believe that he is, last that I looked.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay. So Spikeridge Steed play here from Dokpon. It's slightly awkward wherever he puts it. Nothing is really perfect in this position, although the Hero Power plus Hydrologist play can pull the Tidecaller up to 3. The Steed then only pushes it up to 5. So nothing does that clean 6 that he's looking for into the Questing Adventurer, which makes this turn just a tiny bit awkward.
Yeah.
He's also got the consideration of, no, never mind. I was going to say the only real clean answer to a Spikeridge Steed would be a Sap from Dog, but Sap is actually just not a card in this list from Dog.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's actually a thought where you could either Spikeridge the 1/1 just to guard the Murloc as well, because that's just going to keep getting bigger and require an answer at some point. Or you could just Spikeridge into the Kodo to make it like an even bigger taunt, but yeah. Just gonna go on to the 1/1, and what this does is just spread the power across the board. And now Dokpon's in quite the position. Eviscerate, it's gonna help with these giants, but with nothing great to combo it with either.
Interesting.
I feel like these hallucinations have just sucked, to be honest.
Yeah, I also just want to point out that the way that Dokpon traded has meant that he no longer has lethal represented, which has given Dog the position now where he can just load up the Arcane Giants. If he'd have value traded instead and kept his Tidecaller hanging around on the board, he would have had a clean lethal setup. But that Murloc War Leader being drawn now is going to deal the damage exactly. 3+3+3+4, 13. 1 and 1 come in to finish the job.
Yeah, just, you know, I just feel like those hallucinations were just too slow. They didn't really shine out anyway. If it was choice between True Silver Champion and Silvermoon Paul, and the Silvermoon was picked, although it's a great spell in general and it was great for the Quest and Adventurer, that's 4 mana. That's a lot of a rogue's turn. Normally rogues are used to just playing around with 1 mana, 2 mana prep spells sort of thing to just do crazy stuff, but that was just straight up 4 mana go, which is not what the rogue wants to do.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Tyrion and all these other options, some of the highest value cards, you know, we see Discover effects for Paladin being so powerful in the form of Stonehill Defender that you would would expect Hallucination to be playing that same game as well. But the thing with Stonehill Defender is it has those 400% weightings towards the cards that you're looking for, whereas Hallucination is just a cold, hard vacuum of every card in the class, which makes it slightly less likely that you're going to pick up one of the highest value cards from the class.
Yeah, let's get straight into game number 4. Dogpwn versus Dog. Dogpwn on the Druid again, and Dog locking in this Rogue.
Oh, baby. This hand. Idle into Growth into Blossom. The absolute Jade Druid starter pack for Dogpwn.
Into wait a couple of turns and innovate Yogg.
That seems like it would be a slight divergence from the regular game plan, but sure.
Really?
All right.
On the other hand, though, Dog has a lot of minions, not quite the amount of spells he needs, but he did start the game on the coin, which is actually probably most important for Rogue above all of the classes.
Yeah, it's kind of gone back and forth. Rogue went, very early on, Miracle Rogue just always wanted the coin. Then it went through a period where it was actually a very heavy tempo deck, when it was Small Time Buccaneer on 1, trying Curve to Tomb Pillager on 4. That deck actually wanted to go first, despite a lot of people still thinking it was a coin deck. And now maybe we've come back around full circle to the deck being more reliant on Auctioneer, Questing Adventurer, Edwin Van Cleef, etc., which are all cards that want to be using coin.
Yeah, it's just the lack of that hyper-powered early game, right?
Exactly.
You know, Buck into Dagger, guaranteed every single, you can always Dagger on 2, you're not trying to find a weapon. Made that early start incredibly powerful. The coin is only going to help with that. But as the tempo comes a little bit later for the Rogue, I think the coin is actually better now.
Sure.
Sherazin as well can provide a bit of a pain for the Druid because it is enough damage to actually take down Jades for quite a while.
Yeah.
And in Rogue, normally it's fairly easy to get recycled, but look at this hand, maybe not. Hallucination is a great pickup, though. Especially, now there's double of this Hallucinate coin. Also, just even having this Vile Spine Slayer around with these cheap spells is magnificent as well, because he can just snipe a minion out of nowhere here and carry on with this push where there's just 8 damage on the board already.
Look at this hand from Dogpwn, though, after the start that he had. No let up in sight. He can go for the Fandral Innovate Nourish right now if he wants to. He'll guarantee get that 2 mana back to deal with the 3/1 as a minimum if he wants to go with his hero power, plus the addition of 3 more cards. And he's mousing over the Fandral, which means that he's definitely considering that as a line of play. But of course, Auctioneer came into the hand on the right-hand side as well. I talked about resource allocation as a big skill for Dog as the Rogue in the previous game. How Dogpwn wants to allocate his resources here is actually going to go a long way to deciding the winner of this game.
Yeah, and I think the question here is the fact that he actually just has swipe available. He could just swipe down this board, not take 8. And then on turn 5, asking your opponent to play 4 spells is actually, I'll say how easy it is for Rogue a lot of the time. A lot of the time they don't have to do it on turn 5, like this early in the game.
But it's just cards, right? It doesn't have to be spells. And there's, there's the Swatch
But
Burglar, etc., still in Dog's deck, so...
Just playing like Vile Spine Slayers and Giants as well. Like, there's still a lot of cards that would be awkward to play 4 of in a 5 turn.
I would have 1 Innovate as Rogue, please. Thank you.
God. With Gadget Zan and Coin as well. Wow. Sherazyn's probably going to come back to life next turn.
Yeah, and Dog is just perfectly happy here, just taking 1 turn in the back seat, just to say, all right, my next turn is just absolutely insane from this position. I'm going to Auctioneer, I'm going to draw a bunch of cards, my Sherazyn is coming back out again, I have Eviscerates to spare, I'm likely to hit a Preparation, which means whatever board state you generate, I feel like it just goes bye-bye at this point. But now, by waiting 1 extra turn, Dogpwn now has the potential to work Jade Idol into this Innovate Nourish play as well. And again, same sequencing as we saw previously. He wants those idols in his deck so that he can draw them now off the Nourish and tempo out as hard as he possibly can against this Rogue.
Yeah, this is asking a lot from Dog here on nothing to clear out this Fandral and this 3/3.
Didn't get it.
Might get it next turn.
He might, but he really wanted to max out on tempo there on that 1 turn, I think. Just really try and make a big, oppressive board state, because just developing 1 or 2 minions a turn, that's just fish food for Rogue, right? They can pick these kind of board states apart turn by turn. Against Rogue, if you really want to give them an issue, you want to just overload on stats all in one go.
Okay, Eviscerate going to be used to clear off these minions. The cheaper options, the benefit here is that Dog does have still that Vile Spine Slayer to be able to just insta-kill anything that's in his way. There goes Sherazyn out of the little plant egg. Now, Razor Petals as well, looking pretty good when you have a Van Cleef on the board, in the hand, sorry, as well. Just all this cheap stuff coming in hand now for Dog. He's going to combine to either create a big Van Cleef, reduce the Arcane Giants down a significant amount. proc a Valspine Slayer, or all of the above at this point?
Yep, yeah, the 2 Razor Petals in hand. The number one thing that leaps out to me is that it is just a guaranteed res on the Sherazin whenever he wants it. Of course, they do play nicely with the Edwin Van Cleef as well, but Doc Pone has a more immediate problem in front of him, which is the Auctioneer on board with Dog. So I'm sure we're going to see the Feral Rage come out this turn. Jade Idol can be developed as well for a 5/5 if he wants it, but with the Auctioneer in hand, maybe he wants to hang on. No, of course not. He has Earthen Scales in hand as a 1-mana starter for the Auctioneer anyway.
Yeah, and there's a chance as well that this could be a Sherazin trade with the dagger, and can actually, Dog could just play enough cards to actually just res Sherazin straight away, which means it has to be dealt with on Doc Pone's turn also.
It's true. The Blood Mage pickup also means there's a pretty clean Blood Mage Valspine this turn if he wants to go down that route, but of course that does mean that he's trading his Sherazin last, and he won't get that immediate resurrection that you're talking about, so it's actually a tough call. So if he goes Sherazin Dagger into the 3/6, and he can, comfortably play 4 cards this turn if he wants to, but he's going to lead out with it first here and go with the Razor Petal and Valspine Slayer play. So he is taking his Valspine off the board, reducing his stats just a little bit, although the Valspine comes into play. And also, one thing that stands out to me as well is that the Valspine will continue to get more powerful as the game goes on. Like, the minion that you kill with it will always be
gets bigger.
1 bigger than the minion you could have killed with it the turn before.
Wow, and Doc Pone, even with those snipes going out there, that you're still generating a huge board, and suddenly Dog on what will be, 16 health if the damage goes face this turn? Okay, it's going to trade, but still on 20 when there's just, even on 20 with just a 7/7 on the board is a little bit scary. 6/6 available now, but is this just Van Cleef time with a prep? There's the Razor Petal as well, even an Eviscerate.
So if he Blood Mage, Prep, Avisses, and Razor Petals, he will have spent 3 mana and cast 3 spells this turn, which means his Arcane Giants will cost 4. Like, I'm trying to look for a way to play an insane...
Every single card in your hand.
Right, well, not necessarily... let's not get that greedy, but say, like, 1 Giant and an insane Edwin this turn at the same time, but it's not looking like it's quite there for Dog this turn.
Can still get a good amount of work done. The important part is, as well, if you're going to go for Van Cleef, it needs to be bigger than the 7/7. Getting the 6/6 out kind of just does little to nothing. You do have the petals as well to, chip the final point off the 7/7. But realistically, you want 10 or nothing at this point. Maybe 8's okay, but...
So I imagine Petal, the 4/1 in this spot, definitely happens, and then Dog just has a decision to make about whether he wants to be using this Prep Abyss for 5, which Prep Abyss for 5 is looking pretty rosy in this position.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, taking out the 3/4 with that combination instead, trading the 2/2 into the 4/1 and then dropping the Edwin behind this. So this is a huge turn for Dog, but is it going to be huge enough to stop Dog Pone in his tracks?
Gonna find out. Van Cleef did end up as a 12/12. And now he's now, 15 power on the board, 16 with a hero power.
Yeah, the problem from Dog's perspective here is that even if Doc Pone didn't have a powerful play this turn, he could just kind of trade out the Edwin and then, 2/3 value trade into the 2/2 and just play more Jades and go, fine.
He knows they're cycled in, right?
Right, you just hit me with your best shot and I'm still powering on through.
Great song.
Oh, now you get my 80s references.
Yeah, because that's actually a great song.
Is that even 80s? I feel like I've got that wrong.
Might be 70s.
It might be. Answers on a postcard. Message me on Twitter. When is Hit Me With Your Best Shot coming?
The problem here is Dog has a good refill with just double Arcane Giant if you really needed to next turn. But is it just not going to be enough at this point? The Jade Idol is going to help. His cycling from the Gadget Design is working wonders here. That's Wrath. Okay. I was like, is this another Jade Idol? Like, Dog, you savage.
Wrathing down the 5/3 and just showing absolute, complete and utter disrespect to the 12/12, it looks like. Just sending the damage downtown and saying, hey, I'm at 34. Your 12/12 is an insect bite to me in this position. I'm just going to represent lethal.
Well, that's key and something we didn't really mention too much up until this point, right? We're like, oh, if Dog creates some huge minions, great. Dog Pone's also just on 1 million health at this point.
Right.
It may as well be, whereas Dog is dying to almost anything at this stage of this game as well. So Dog really up against the wall now. Looks like he's going to try and get the draw off the Thalnos, just to see what he gets. He does have the Valspine Slayer to kill one of the 8/8s. He can kill the other one. He can trade off into the Gadget Zan, but how does he do the rest?
I think Fan of Knives is possibly his consideration here, and he's trying to work out where he needs that extra point of spell damage off the Razor Petal first. But now Razor Petal going to come down, the trades are going to come through, and Dog is going to get the bad news that there is still plenty more gas coming out in Dogpone's hand.
Yeah, Valspine Slayer, though, as you mentioned earlier, doing great work late game against Jade Druid. You just snipe an AA. But no, it's not going to get there. Dog going through the motions just to play out the turn, but Dogpone is going to take down Dog. He's continuing to perform very well.
He is, yeah. I mean, following up the success in the winter season, we mentioned, of course, he is just pretty much playing for practice and playing for fun at this point, as well as a good chunk of prize money if he's able to make it back.
And a nice trip to China.
Yeah, why not? But of course, you know, he's taking out a big name like Dog, and you know, of course, Dog was a player that some of our casters had high hopes for this tournament, and it feels just a little bit like the caster prediction board is getting back to its old cursing habits.
Yeah, well, all I know is it's not been cursed since I've been on it, so everything seems okay. But